welcome to UMBC in the Loop. I'm David Hoffman from UMBC's Division of Student Affairs, and today we're going to be talking about Breaking Ground, which is an unconventional UMBC initiative that supports students, faculty, and staff in making meaningful contributions to positive social change. Breaking Ground has some programmatic components, but really it's a campus-wide conversation about how to make our scholarship, our courses, and our activities matter. I'm here today with two UMBC undergraduates who really exemplify Breaking Ground's ideals. Caitlyn Leiter-Mason is a senior majoring in political science and gender and women's studies, and Ganesh Mysore is a junior majoring in chemical engineering and political science. And Caitlyn, I want to start with you. So I know that you've done internships with nonprofit organizations, you've been involved with issue advocacy campaigns on campus and beyond campus, you've been deeply involved in electoral politics, working on campaigns, and you were a delegate elected to the 2012 Democratic National Convention. So my question is, for people who say politics is a dirty business, keep me as far from that as possible, what would you say to them?
That's such a good question, because you're right. The word politics has such heavy connotations nowadays. But when I think about what politics really is, fundamentally, one, it's everywhere. You know, politics isn't just something that happens in state capitals or in Washington, D.C. There are office politics, there are politics at a university, in the classroom, you know, in personal relationships. So one, politics is everywhere. And two, fundamentally, it's about how we make decisions and how we have influence in those processes. And that's not a fundamentally bad thing. People can have influence in bad ways. People can abuse relationships, but people can also use politics to make really positive changes in their micro communities, in their, you know, classroom, on their campus, or in their county, in their state, in their nation. So there, you know, are reasons why politics has a bad reputation, but there are also a lot of reasons why it should have a much better one, because ultimately politics is how we interact and how we build relationships and how we use those relationships to make changes in our communities. And that definitely doesn't have to be a bad thing.
And Ganesh, you've been involved in lots of roles on campus as a leader in the Student Government Association, and your most recent role has been as the coordinator for SGA's signature Prove It competition, which is a contest that invites students to submit proposals for changes on campus. So tell us what Prove It is and what it means to you.
Well, Prove It, I think, is a competition that really embodies the principles of Breaking Ground and civic agency. It's SGA's commitment to being a partner with students to help them and support them by giving them the resources to make the changes they want to see in those micro communities, you know, in this case, UMBC's campus. And, you know, we've been doing it since 2007. We've had winners that have really shaped the face of campus in a couple of different ways. You know, the first winner ever was a Wi-Fi plaza back in 2007. Next to the Fine Arts Building, back when, you know, campus wasn't blanketed by Wi-Fi, and students came up with the idea to have a place with benches and umbrellas where you could hang out and eat lunch, and there'd be Wi-Fi for you to get on Facebook. And most recently, well, I'll get to this year, but last year we had a program that extended the library coffee shop hours in order to better support our new 24-hour study space. A particularly innovative one that I really like talking about is called the Retriever Project, which is an idea that there wasn't enough student-created art on campus, something to do with school spirit, but also really embodying the principles of taking ownership of our environment. And the program basically had students design statues of our mascot, a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, and have 3 of them painted by student designs and put in 3 very, you know, prominent places on campus, in front of the library, in front of the Commons, in front of our new Performing Arts building. This year, we've got some pretty cool new winners. The first one is The Garden, which is a community garden proposal where any UMBC student organization can apply for a plot of land and cultivate it. And it's a food garden or flower garden. And the idea is to cultivate your land and you have an impact on some physical aspect of campus. And the second one is kind of like the extensions library coffee shop hours from last year, you know, a child of necessity. It's an addition of a parking sensor to our commuter parking garage to show students how many spots are left before they go into the garage and waste 10 minutes driving around looking for a parking space. So that's what Prove It's about, and that's, you know.
How do the winners get selected?
The winners are selected by a student vote. I should definitely mention that. Yeah. there's a huge vote that goes out, election really, that happens between all of the Prove It finalists. And of the 5 finalists, the 2 that won this year were the 2 I mentioned. All in all, there were about 1,700 votes cast in this year's election, which I'm pretty sure is a record. And hopefully it'll only get bigger next year. You know, students supported these ideas and students got it.
Terrific. So I want to ask each of you, we can start with Caitlyn again. You're on a campus that has made this commitment to fostering civic agency in all of its activities. So what does this Breaking Ground initiative mean to you?
So the Breaking Ground initiative is, you know, what you introduced that sentence saying. It's this collection of threads of that spirit and those values that have been happening in different places on campus into one central, I guess, you know, the website is really the best place to go to see all of these stories come together in one place. It's a pooling of resources. It's an investment by the university to give kind of an official recognition to the spirit. That's really what drew me to UMBC. I came to UMBC knowing I wanted to be a political science major, but for me, I was worried about going to a school where all the people in my class would just be in it for the power, you know, for the game of politics. And I really liked the idea of using politics to create positive change. So I came because of the Sondheim Public Affairs Scholars Program, which promised to let me major in political science, but to do so being part of a cohort that was focused on integrating service and academics. And that's what brought me to UMBC. But once I got here, past my first semester, and I started getting involved in our Student Government Association, I found another academic home in the Gender and Women's Studies department. I just started having more conversations with people. I realized that those weren't values that were unique to my one program. They were really permeating the campus in a lot of different ways. And so I think of Breaking Ground as, you know, on the one hand, it's a brand new initiative. It really is something to be proud of, but it's also been a long time coming. You know, it's really collecting those stories and those activities and those passions and values that are happening in a lot of different places at UMBC in one place, and then providing them with resources and support and more connections to further increase that spirit.
You mentioned the Breaking Ground website. We should mention for the benefit of our viewers that that's located at breakingground.umbc.edu. They can check it out themselves. And how about you, Ganesh? What does it mean to be a part of Breaking Ground?
I don't think I've got an answer that can really best what Caitlyn said. I agree 100% with everything that she's got to say. But, you know, to me, especially since, you know, I've been heavily involved in Student Government Association since my freshman year, Breaking Ground's really manifested itself as a part of my life in all the partnerships that I engage in as an agent, you know, of the Student Government Association. It's the idea that, you know, it is an idea that permeates UMBC, like Caitlyn said, in the sense that anytime students, whether or not they're allied with the Student Government Association or actively involved in it, anytime students have an issue that they want to talk about or some kind of a problem that they want addressed, there's always somebody who's in a position of power that's willing to work with them on making it better, you know, making UMBC better. And I think the, you know, most prominent way that I've experienced this partnership is in student fees. One of the initiatives that I undertook while as a senator in the Student Government Association was to set up a board that worked directly with the Vice President for Administration and Finance, advising the Vice President on what students cared about and what kind of expenditures students wanted out of their student fees every year. And, you know, it's only been around for 2 years, and in its first year, I think it saw an immense, you know, great success in the board advocated for having the weight room in the Retriever Activity Center renovated, and 6 months later, we had a renovated weight room. This year, we advocated very strongly for bringing down a couple of fees and perhaps not spending money on things that students didn't want. And it was almost surprising to me when we heard back from the Vice President saying, no, that's excellent, that's what we want to do. And I think what's really important to note here is that partnerships like that aren't rare. And, you know, students doing this kind of thing that what Caitlyn and I do aren't rare at UMBC. It's kind of potential that every student has, and potential that many students at UMBC have, you know, tapped into and recognize every day. But that's what Breaking Ground means to me.
Thank you. Terrific.
Yeah.
So one more question. I'm going to start with you on this one, Ganesh. I want you to give some advice to students who have not yet arrived at UMBC. Okay. And they're coming in knowing that our economy has been shaky, that they're going to have to prepare themselves for a career, but they also want to make a positive difference. So how can they make the most of their UMBC experience to position them to do both of those things?
I think the one single most important thing for you to know about UMBC is it's not going to come to you. I think that we have an amazing culture, an amazing campus community that wants to see everybody succeed, that wants to see every student being engaged in the things that they want to be engaged in, you know, academically and otherwise. And I think the key is that every student at UMBC needs to recognize that potential and, you know, own it, go out and use it, because it's really easy at a school like UMBC, given our size, to, I think, go to class, go to dining hall, and then go back to your dorm or go back home. But if you know, the student would be willing to put in the extra effort to care about whatever it is they care about and try to do something with it at UMBC, I think they'd find that it is a far more enriching experience than you could, you know, expect.
Great.
Yeah.
And Caitlyn?
As a graduating senior, I absolutely understand that pressure of getting ready for the real world and figuring out what you're really going to do with your life. So I would just encourage students to realize that that isn't, you know, real life doesn't start when you graduate, it's right now. So my suggestion is simply to do both. You know, a lot of students come to UMBC with an idea of what they want to do, or at least of some idea of what they want their academic path to be. And for those students, that's awesome that they already have figured that out. And to remember that no matter what you end up doing professionally, you know, very few of us are going to be social workers or community organizers, but all of us are going to be involved in communities where we see something that we wish was different. And so simply look for opportunities within, if you have your track already, within the areas that you're finding yourself in, and think about what would make this better. How am I feeling dissatisfied? What do I see that's working really well? And get involved with change projects that, you know, you see relevance to your career path and in your academics. And if you are coming to UMBC without an idea of what you want to do in 4 years, you know, take advantage of that opportunity and try a lot of new things. I've learned so much from service learning at UMBC about what it means to be a volunteer, about how our services could work better, and also a lot from the people I've worked with. So that would be my suggestions, is don't limit yourself to just being a student or to just being somebody focused on extracurriculars, but think about the ways they intersect, because, you know, life will intersect too. It won't just be work and after work. It'll be thinking about, you know, how does my job create or connect with who I am as a person and who I want to be and what I want my community to be like.
That's great advice, and I know it describes choices that both of you have made. So I want to thank both of you for being with us, Ganesh and Caitlyn, and thanks to our viewers for tuning in.